Welcome to the White Sox Recap Podcast. I am Ryan McGuffey. Well, we're about 25% of the way through the 2025 season. And while the record doesn't look all that great, believe it or not, I think the murky water has some clearing on the other side. And to clarify and to clear that up, we bring on CHSN's Connor McKnight to the podcast to join me and Brian Anderson as we discuss the 2025 season, the prospects, Tim Elco, Braden Montgomery. Will Noah Schultz and Hagen Smith actually pitch in 2025 at the big league level? And his role at CHSN and some walk down memory lane with some of the Ed Farmer, Bill Melton, and cast of characters that have come in and out of the Chicago White Sox. It's all brought to you by our proud partners at the Illinois Tollway. The Illinois Tollway is launching the If Only campaign aimed at increasing awareness of the tragic consequences speeding can have, not just for the driver, but for others impacted by a crash. We are happy to have the Illinois Tollway as our proud partner of the White Sox Recap Podcast. It's the White Sox Recap Podcast with Brian Anderson and Connor McKnight, and it starts right now. All right, back on the podcast here, and pleased to be joined by a friend of the program at BA, as they say, Connor McKnight, CHSN, part of the White Sox broadcast, goes way back with me, goes way back with BA, and wanted to get him on because, well, for a million reasons. Obviously, fans have really grown to love Connor and his knowledge of the White Sox and his love of the White Sox and how he broadcasts the news and notes every single day to your televisions and socials, etc. But his knowledge of the minor leagues and what's going on with his current team. And there's so much to break down on this team. And people might think that that's crazy, but I actually don't. I think there's a lot to there's a lot of murky water that I believe is clear on the other side. I really do. And Connor, just wanted to get you on, bud. We've been trying to get you on for a few weeks, and happy to have you on the White Sox Recap Podcast.
Thrilled to be here. Nice talk. It's like we're just hanging out having a beverage at your local establishment, the three of us. I mean, I think that's probably happened before. Good to see you all, and thanks for having me. First time, long time.
I think I'm the third biggest White Sox. I'm the third biggest White Sox fan on this podcast.
That's all right. That's okay. We're not ranking here. We're not pulling rank. You did make a catch in the blackout game, and Connor and I cannot say we did that.
You know what? I run into people every once in a while. They'll be like, "Oh, there's my boy BA," or "Man, that catch you made to final out World Series was great." I go, "Still not the World Series, but whatever, man. Keep it going."
Hey, 20 years, man. A lot of shit gets in the brain and clouds the. Just go with it.
Hell yeah.
Just go with it. All right, so let's start, Connor, with the White Sox themselves on the field. There's I just said there's a lot to break down, and I think the general fan is kind of sick of hearing about, like, oh, I don't want to hear anything about the positives, like this team is terrible and they just keep losing, et cetera, et cetera. But I've been saying all year that it is different. It feels different. The leadership certainly is different in the dugout, on the field every day, and how the players are responding to Will Venable. And then there's little things like, maybe it's not, but Shane Smith is fun. That story is absolutely fantastic. The starters have a 3.76 ERA as we tape this. Now, there's some things about it I don't like they're 27th in innings pitched. And I think that's a concern of mine going forward. And then offensively, there's all kinds of stuff. But right now, as we're about 25% through the season, what has stood out to you as something that fans can hook their wagon to and say, hey, there's something here that's tangible August and September?
Yeah, so I think two things come to mind immediately, and that's not to say that there's just two things. But one, you mentioned the new leadership, Guff, and I think it's my job, as it is Brooks' job and John's job and Steve's job and Len and DJ on the radio side, to relate this particular piece of information to White Sox fans. And BA, you know how this works. You can say things out loud, right? Whether you're a coach or whether you're a player. But the actual response to some of those things, those coaching points, those aspects of responsibility, those are different now. They just are. I'm the one telling you that. I am reporting this. I am, put it down. This is my name. It's different now. Has been for a little bit, and it's been quite noticeable, and that's a good thing. That's why the change got made. That's why the buy-in was there. That's why you've got guys not just like Will Venable, but also Walker McKinnon, Brian Bannister before that, and down the line we go, reshaping this organization and those who make the players accountable, both in good and bad, right? That's different now. The other thing, the more tangible thing, or maybe the more immediate thing on the field, I'm really impressed with the plate discipline and swing decisions up and down this organization. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to hit doubles, but it does mean that when you've got a guy, and I said this all last year when I was doing the pre and post game show on the radio, Miguel Vargas was really bad last year, but he didn't chase garbage, and he was making good swing decisions. And when he let it loose, it was that good stuff to find, good stuff to go do damage on. He just wasn't doing any damage on it. Last night, as we record this, last night's game was Wednesday night. Vargas has the two doubles, one of them that gets him on the board in the ninth inning. Like, these are the kinds of things that grow. You can grow from good swing decisions and add a little pop into that swing and a little bit more command of the strike zone, this, that, and the other. I think that's something they've really focused on. They've really harnessed, and they try to add guys from the outside that supplement that some. That's a trellis, right? That's a scaffolding that you can grow from as an organization. And those are two things that I think are really big.
You mentioned a good point. Like, obviously, when you're struggling as an organization, you got to find, the silver lining. But I think us three know that when we're having to talk about, like, man, what you've noticed lately is the White Sox are making really good swing decisions. On a good team, you're going, that dude the White Sox are hitting 430 with runners in scoring position, right? And I remember that would be the topic of conversation when I played. But again, the White Sox, you see them every day, but you got to be able to give them something. I'm sure Will Venable's taking that into the locker room, being like, guys, I know we're struggling. We're not where we need to be, but we're making really good swing decisions, a lot better than last month. And I think to Guff's point, you're talking about the White Sox starters, right? With a mid-3 ERA, but you said they're 27th in innings pitched.
Yeah.
Goose Gossage is talking shit somewhere, by the way. But yeah, I mean, I think about Javi Vasquez, right? I used to be, and when I was in center field, Javi Vasquez would motor through lineups till the 5th inning. And, we weren't talking shit, but we were kind of like, hey, Coop, like, get someone else in there. Cause for whatever reason, that 6th inning was like, wow. And that's just how it is. Right. But I think, like, to your point, Connor, we got to find a way to either bridge that gap or get these guys to extend it into the 7th, because that's just crazy to me that these guys will be going maybe 5 innings and get out of there.
Yeah, I think that I think it's a really interesting thing to point out, and it's something organizationally that we're seeing a lot of. I don't know that, like, people are quick to look at prospects especially and go, oh, they're babying the pitchers, right? Well, there's a pretty wide distance between babying a guy and then doing the Nolan Ryan when he was in charge of pitching for the Rangers and going, like, go out there until you've died. Like, once you're dead, we'll remove you from the game, and that'll be the end of your day.
Yeah,
right?
The last pitch
right.
he ever threw, remember? Like, he was like 100, he threw one. It was like, it like, they just died and hit the ground. He's like, I'm out.
That's it. That'll do it for me. And that's what he was kind of like preaching when he was, pushing Rangers pitching development and stuff. And, that's a different conversation, I suppose. But anyway, you look at the last couple outings for Hagen Smith and Noah Schultz down at AA Birmingham. Schultz goes into the 6th for the first time in his career through 92 pitches. I think that was his last outing as we're all talking here this morning. Hagen's getting a little deeper into ball games, even though walks are an issue. And I think as an organization, you have this difficult mix, especially at the big league level, of guys who have been around the bigs for a while, like Cannon and Davis particularly, but do not have the experience. Davis because of injuries and Cannon because of, the up and down last season. I mean, he's probably your most full-time starter at this point with Martin Perez out, and this is his 2nd year, So you have to be careful in spots like that. They've been burned a little bit by, Penn Murphy was unfortunately ineffective for them in the first month of the season. They've had to make some bullpen moves here or there. It's why they've been, in my mind, creative and deserve credit for deploying the opener in that series against the A's, and then into, I forget, was it Milwaukee, I think was the next team up, 4 in a row. I love stuff like that because it's like take advantage of the things you do have and allow those starters to get set into a better position to get deeper into a game. I don't care personally if it's 2 through 7 or 1 through 6. I care that it's that many innings, and I like that, that gets back to what you were talking about at the top, Jeff. This is a different decision-making structure on an in-game standpoint that's willing to take those risks and able to deal with that if and when it fails, because invariably a decision is going to fail in baseball because it's hard and it's weird. But that's what this organization is willing to do now that it didn't seem so willing to do in the past.
I mean, I'm so glad that you touched on that opener situation, because if you think about their bullpen today, like, they have one save as a team, right? As we tape this, they have one save. They don't have a closer. They don't have a 7th inning guy. They don't have an 8th. They're trying to figure out who those guys are. And the shuttle's going to stay warm to Charlotte most of the season, as we all know. That's okay. And the creativity of going opener to get your starter possibly through the 7th or certainly into it, to shorten the game for a bullpen that you don't really have the dudes to shorten the game for, is so much more forward thinking. This is the stuff that I want, like, White Sox fans to, that when they ask, well, how is Chris Getz doing anything different? That right there is different, because it's an approach where the organization is pulling from one rope, and top to bottom, they're making decisions in the best interest of their players, their team, their organization, and wins. All of that does matter. And they don't have the talent of, some of the top teams in the league. That's not breaking news. That's why they're 10-27 as we tape this. They should be better. The expected win-loss tells you that. They should be 3, 4, 5. I think it's 15-22 is what they should be. Runs allowed versus what they've scored. But the whole thing, the creativity, and one last thing I'll throw to you. Pedro Grifol used to say, we're going to prepare to kick their ass. I'd never seen a team, Connor, in 2 seasons be more unprepared to start a baseball game in my life. They looked like they needed 3 innings to wake up, and all of a sudden you look up at the scoreboard and it's 5-1, or they're booting a ball early. This team, for whatever reason, other than the Dodgers and Yankees, the White Sox are the best first inning team in baseball. They scored the most runs. They've hit a third of their home runs in the first inning. They come ready to play. Now, tacking on's been a problem, but to your point earlier, they have shown fight late in games to get guys on, to make a better approach, to take 6, 7, 8 pitches in order to get more guys, to see more pitches and get more guys at the plate. So I think organizationally, there is a lot in the first 40-ish games that I say, that's different, that's different, that's different. The win-loss record, not yet, but there's things.
I think that's right. And I think the other thing we're talking about a lot, and BA, I know you can speak to this. What's so difficult in baseball, or an incredibly difficult thing, is when a player's not getting results, but is going about his business, his training, his practice, his prep the right way, that coach or that teammate or whoever is going to look at that guy who's hitting like 0-40 for his last 3 weeks and go, brother, you got it. This is it. You're doing the right thing. You are working the right way. That's so hard for fans to care about hearing. That's so hard for the player to internalize at times, because all you're seeing is a screamer at the left fielder's glove every other at bat. Like, it's so tough. That's so hard to keep going with when you don't have the results. And in a lot of cases, these are the coaching points. I mean, that's what Andrew Vaughn has been dealing with for the bulk of 6 weeks now. That's difficult.
Hey, my batting average was 140, Connor, not 040. So it's fucked up. No, but man, like you hit the nail on the head, man. You sit there and the fans don't give a shit. Like, right? Like, the media doesn't care. They're going to let you know. But you're right. I mean, the coaching staff, Ozzie, Greg Walker, those guys would sit there and go, he's busting his ass. He's going in there, he's putting in the work. I always had defense kind of as like a refuge and whatnot. And I know what Andrew Vaughn's going through. The only difference is I was making $500,000, not $6 million. And it wasn't year 6, it was year 2. So I know fans are frustrated and whatnot, and you want them to snap out of it. But to our point earlier, when a team's struggling, you got to find the little things. And I mean, I don't know how many freaking highlights I've seen. It's like Luis Robert, he may only be hitting 180, but man, he stole this many bases. I go, yeah, who cares? Like, tell him to hit 260 with 30, dude. They don't need you to steal 15 bags and hit 180. You're Luis freaking Robert. So that's the time. I think that's the stuff the fans get frustrated with. We're like, we're just calling this guy Mike Trout. Now we're like, hey, killing it with 180, but he is stealing a lot. We're like, we need you to steal 4 bases at a time in the means of a home run.
I think it's fair. I think on the one hand, it's good to point out, look, there's hustle. When he does get on the bases, he's trying to make it as advantageous for his team as he can. You got it's again, we're recording this Thursday night. So Wednesday night, last night, he ropes that thing down the line and he's not running. He's not on second base in the 9th inning as that scoring run. That's brutal. And we'll see, what comes of that down the line here. I wouldn't be surprised if, there's a conversation. I know there's a conversation that's been had, but what happens after that is going to happen after that. I think the Luis Robert of it all, forget Andrew Vaughn for a sec, but I think the Luis Robert of it all is the thing hanging over everybody's head in a lot of different factors, right? I mean, if he were playing now the way he was in 2023, I think we're probably talking trade rumors constantly, right? I think we're probably talking about a deal maybe done by, what did Bob Nightingale say, Memorial Day, that kind of thing. That's where we're at, right? And I think the future of this organization is, like you said off the top, Guff, in a little bit more clear water than murky water once that's done. And also, that's not fun. That's not a fun thing to sit with and deal with, whether you're Luis or whether you're us or whether you're, whoever. It's an uneasy time, but that's where the White Sox find themselves in. And this front office has got to get this one right. The same way they needed to get the Crochet trade right. The same way they needed to get the Fetty trade with Kopech in it last year too.
Yeah, I want to hit on that in just a second. Hey, folks, quick time out to talk about something serious. We've all said it before. If I had only slowed down. The Illinois Tollway's new campaign is called If Only, and it's a powerful reminder that speeding doesn't just put you at risk. It affects everyone on the road. Every crash leaves someone wishing they had done something differently. So take the extra time, slow down, save lives. Lives, including yours, depend on it. We're happy to have the Illinois Tollway as our partner here on the White Sox Recap Podcast. That's part of the murky water that I discussed. You got kind of these spare parts. And unfortunately, it's a crap term to give guys that were part of your plan, 3-4 years ago. But you kind of have spare parts in Luis Robert, in Andrew Benintendi, in Andrew Vaughn. They've been great teammates, and I think they all understand where they are in the world right now. But what I do love, another thing that I've loved thus far, and look, the screaming for Tim Elco is loud. Everyone hears what Tim Elco's doing in Charlotte, and the impatience that they have for, as BA said, Andrew Vaughn is getting louder and louder and louder. I do like the White Sox have not wasted time. Like Chase Mydroth, go down there and do some things for a couple weeks. You're ready? Let's cook. Edgar Carroll, come up here. Let's cook. When you look at a box score, you see 4 hits from those 2 guys and 3 runs driven in. Even if they lose 5-4, you're feeling pretty damn good. That's a tangible thing. I feel bad about, Chase Mydroth takes one off the head the other day. 100 times that happens. 99 of them, he makes that catch easy. I don't know what happened. It was a bad route to start with. It looked like a mess. BA, you guys lost games. I've never seen games lost in Kansas City the way I've seen the White Sox lose games in Kansas City. But defensively, just talking, microscoping one series, it's actually been a pretty fun series to watch. Even though they've had struggles to get runs, they look like a cleaner club, and it kind of goes back to all the stuff we're saying. But in kind of transitioning to the Tim Elco conversation, there's definitely a couple other guys I want to discuss. What is the thought process, Connor? Because you look at a guy like Elco, we know his position. It's first base DH. Is it something out of there's no question a 26-year-old Tim Elco has done everything he can do at Charlotte and is probably ready to come up to Chicago. But is this a I lost my mic there for a second.
Hi, boy, Guff.
Yeah. This live TV. Just what is the thought process in a guy like Tim Elco and where he's at right now?
So there's a couple of things I could point out. I talked about this some with Chuck and Ozzy on the post-game show, I think last week before the White Sox went out to Kansas City. Elco's only played about 70-some games at AAA. BA, you can tell me whether that's enough, but, Chase Mydroth had more there than when they brought him up, and Edgar Caro had, I think, about something similar, if not a few more. But obviously the need for Caro at that point, with Narvaez and everybody else, the rosters were what it were. It's a little bit different.
I mean, but does age does age change that? Like if you're 26 versus 22, is 76 games? Is it different? Like I feel like, Edgar Caro, you're looking. All they've talked about is, he's younger than everybody. He's younger. Well, he's ready to play. The guy comes up in clutch situations. So I don't know. Like I'm with you. I understand. Like when I look at a guy in the minor leagues and I see gaps of 20 games missed, 30 games played, it's kind of like Colson Montgomery, like a couple of years ago. You're seeing like, there's chunks here where like that doesn't fit. And I don't know. With Elco being 26, I don't know. BA, it's probably more of a question for you there.
Oh, go ahead, Connor.
Well, yeah, I haven't worn a jersey with any number of A's attached to it in my entire life, so I think this one's on you. But yeah, it does matter some. The only thing I would point out is in regards to Elco, it is worth noting that the strikeout rate is incredibly high, right? Yeah. I mean, that's a difference, right? In Caro and Elco, talking about the two players specifically.
Yeah, I mean, but that, like, put it in perspective, right? I got called up when I was 23. And again, I was more raw. I think Ozzy, Kenny Williams, Rick Hahn, those guys were probably like, BA can absolutely help us in center field. We'll deal with the with the struggles and the ups and downs, right? I was in my fourth year in the big leagues at 26. I probably needed another year or at least a half a season or maybe start in AAA just to see what it's like to like get out of some slumps without having to put so much pressure on myself. But I saw Elco when he was 23, and I'm like, man, this guy's really polished. I mean, he's strong. He could drive the ball to all fields. And again, like there's not really much else for him to do. He's going to be what he's going to be. He's going to be 250, 20 plus, and he's going to run into some balls. Is he going to strike out a lot? Yeah, but like so is everybody else. I'd rather have somebody come up here and say, hey, we're going to reward you because you get a 26-year-old hitting, 8 to 10 homers right now. He's by far their best prospect, hitting the best. It's like if you don't call him up, everyone's going to go, well, why the hell not? Like he's doing what he should be doing. These guys at his position here they suck, and so you're kind of wondering, like, not what else do I do? And that's when you start getting discouraged. There's some disgruntled minor leaguers, and let me tell you, AAA guys are already on the bus talking shit. You don't need to give them a reason. So,
yeah, I think that's part of the discomfort that this White Sox organization, kind of has to wade through still as they come out of or move through this rebuild. Right? They've got guys in Rojas and Drury. I'm going to space on some names because I'm only on coffee number 2 this morning. But like some of the veterans that might get moved here, it seems to me that they want to move through some of those guys first. I don't like saying this, but it's true. When Elco gets to the bigs, it's going to taste as sweet in June as it would have in May, right? If that's the case. And I think he'll get there. And BA, I think you're right. I think it's a guy who's 250, 260 who will absolutely run into some and will have a strikeout rate probably around 28, 29%, which is a lot, but it's there, right? And if that's what he's going to be now, I think that's what he'll be in June or July. And unfortunately, he is not of the prospects, scouting report. He doesn't have the pedigree that Caro or Mydroth does. He's, by all reports, an incredible human being. Everybody knows what he did at Ole Miss. The guy's got a damn statue up there, right? I mean, how many guys graduate with a piece of marble? And I think it's actually steel or whatever. But, like, it's there. It's on the campus. The guy never has to pay for a damn thing at Ole Miss ever again. I think that speaks to the kind of guy he is. Hopefully that's something he can weather. You have to make uncomfortable decisions, and somebody's going to be, on the other end of that during this. It's why you don't want to have to do this as an organization too many times, and it's part of what they've got to deal with.
I think it's a very educated way of looking at it, Connor. I really do, because we had Getz on the podcast, obviously, and what I loved about it is that he's committed to doing it the way he has it laid out. And the timeline of that might not match up with Johnny White Sox fan. And that's okay. It shouldn't, actually, to be honest with you. If
I had a beer with Johnny the other night. We had a great time, by the way. It's really nice. He's doing fine. It's Johnny White Sox.
Johnny White Sox fan? Yeah.
He's hanging in there. He's hanging in there.
Yeah. We talking about Guff is Johnny White Sox fan, dude. He just
exactly.
He just third person narrative, third person himself.
I didn't know. Hey, do you want to take the mic from here and just run?
Sorry.
It's comedy hour. This is exactly what I thought this would turn into. No, but like whether it's June, July, and there's going to be more pieces that are coming, as we all know, and maybe there are names some people aren't as familiar with, and maybe there's a bunch of names people are familiar with, but that's part of like the clearing. And the clearing of the water, I'm going to keep using this analogy. It might not happen in 2025. Like, that's what I think this whole season is. This whole season is at the end, and October 1st, you need to know pretty damn well the guys that you're really invested in, who they are. And if you need to draft a shortstop next year because Colson Montgomery just isn't the dude you think, then at least you know. And that's what I think this whole year is. And I'm not like Colson could come up here and be the top guy that we all hope that he is. But I'm just using his name as one right now of reference since he went down to Arizona to work on things. And look, like we've gone through in Chicago a rebuild where literally every one of them flopped. And I think everybody's got a little bit of PTSD from that, and understandable. And that's where the fans saying, why am I doing this again? I hear you, but I understand why, whether it's June 1st, May 15th, July 1, and Tim Elco comes up or whatever, those are the things that we're going to hang on to. Those are the things that this team did not have 2 years ago and certainly didn't have last year. The cupboard was completely bare.
Yeah, and there's two inflection points coming up here in the next, I don't know, what do you want to call it? Probably 2 months or so. 2.5 if you want to lead it up all the way up to the deadline, although I don't think it's going to take that long. You got the Major League Draft coming up. White Sox pick 10. It's an interesting college class right now, but there are several intriguing prep shortstop guys that might be around 10. Is that a move you make? And I think it's absolutely possible. And I also don't think that taking a prep shortstop is an indictment on Colson Montgomery, as we know in this town. Mm-hmm. Having 95 shortstops all at the top of your prospect list is not a bad thing. That's a very good thing. You want that problem. So is that a move you make? And then obviously, like we talked about earlier, what is the return for Luis Robert Jr.? What are you able to get? A, B, how close to the big leagues are these players? That answer doesn't have to be really close, though it seems like they'd prefer it, right? But that's going to start adjusting that timeline. And I think it's completely fair, if not more than fair, to say by the end of 2025, September 29th, by the way, that you want to have a lot of this water cleared up, in that what your plan A, B, and C are at a couple of different positions. We've got some more murky water coming up with the CBA and everything else like that down the line, but that's big baseball stuff. You got to solve for what you can, I think, in the next 8 to 10 months.
Connor, what what the trade chip now for Luis Robert is called cash considerations.
Oh, come on, man.
No, I'm saying, but no, I meant like that shit you do when he doesn't hustle and stuff. And again, like, I don't want to disparage the kid. I mean, I don't know if he's a bad guy. He's probably a good, great guy, but you're known as like someone who's kind of like you notice when he runs really hard from first to second, that's because that goes on the back of his baseball card. And when it comes time to hit free agency or whatever, they'll use that. Right. But when he knows he's out, or when he's running around first base and he knows he can just coast, he's like, I already got a hit type stuff. Right. But again, like, I know Guff is big on Montgomery or, Colson. I'm going, he's going to be a good player, but shortstop, like, I think to myself, you have like a Francisco Lindor at shortstop in the minor leagues. You're like, hey man, like, we'll draft a shortstop, but maybe down the line, maybe someone who's a prospect, Dominican kid, 16-year-old with some more time. But man, I just don't know. Like, I don't know if they have anyone right now where they're going to be like, hey, don't draft 3 or 4 shortstops. Like, I'm drafting every middle, up the middle, all day, every day, up the middle.
No one's earned that. No one's earned the right. Nobody. Like, it's plus if you're drafting a prep shortstop, the age gap just alone gives you 3, 4, 5 years of Colts. And by the way, the Montgomery that I'm in love with is Braden. Okay.
Yeah, my fault. Yeah, no.
Very clear.
I got domed out right there for a second. I go, wait a minute, I just forget his name.
Yeah. So I mean, a couple more minutes here with Connor McKnight from CHSN, and kind of fast forwarding what BA just said, but I wanted to hit on a couple of other names just real quick. The big names, like what Braden Montgomery's doing right now, is exciting. We're seeing it. A walk-off homer, he's 3 homers in 2 games. A walk-off homer for Winston-Salem. Albeit these are low A, and now he's at high A. It's exciting because he had never played a game in the minors, and this was a guy that kind of just was thrown in the top 50 of prospect rankings last year because of the unknown. He had the injured ankle. It's like, man, this guy could vault into the top 15 pretty quickly, or we just kind of don't know. So far, I mean, when you hear the bat sound, I haven't seen him in person yet, but when you hear that sound just on the clip, it's like, oh, that's the one where you go like, you look real quick over your left shoulder. I said this on Twitter the other day, and I said, keep the receipt. I think Braden Montgomery will finally be the best right fielder the White Sox have had since Jermaine Dye and Magley Ordonez. I really do.
Yeah, I think it's entirely possible. He's got that upside. I think we all know why that trade happened the way it happened and when it happened. I think Braden Montgomery getting involved in there is what really juiced the wheels. I don't think that's what you do to wheels, but either way, it really got the things greased them. It greased the wheels. Yeah. Got things moving for that trade, and I think that's a big reason. I won't be surprised at all. I mean, Braden Montgomery is going to end up at Double-A this year. Whether they wanted to send him to Charlotte is just based on whether he likes a flight time or not. I mean, it's immaterial, because I wouldn't be surprised at all if by this time next year we're talking about, okay, are you going to see him June, July, or are you going to see him July, August at the big league level? I think that's all in play for him. He's got that kind of talent. He's got that kind of resume.
Guff, wait, you mentioned you haven't seen him yet. Like,
I've met him in person, but I haven't seen him. Like, I haven't watched a big league. Yeah.
When I was at Arizona, I saw him take pregame. He's at Stanford. He's playing right field. I'm like, damn, man, like the ball just comes out of his hand differently. He has an absolute bazooka, right? So that for me, as a scouting him, watching the outfielders, and I didn't know much, right? It was my first year coaching, but I came back and I watched him hit, and I'm like, man, this kid's unbelievable. And that was that, right? And then all of a sudden they were up by like 1 or 2 in the 9th inning. This kid comes in from right field, right? Or comes in, he's throwing 98 off the mound. So he's an absolute freak show. He's the Jaylen Brown of baseball bodies, right? You see Jaylen Brown of Celtics, like him in a uniform. You're like, him and Ron Artest, I seen him in person. I'm like, holy cow. But you watch this kid, and he looks kind of skinny on TV, like wiry, but in person, probably one of the better baseball bodies I've ever seen. Probably better than Luis Robert, if you can imagine that.
Well, I mean, just talking to him, the kid, he's got an infectious smile and personality, and he kind of wants to be that dude. I mean, just in talking to him, and Connor, I know you've spoken with him. That's what has me excited. It's like, he's not just like Carlos Quentin, where like the talent was so good, but he didn't want to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
Like Braden Montgomery, I think, is like, where's the spotlight? Give it to me. And what do you need? And that's exciting. BA and I did a predictions podcast at the start of the season. And one of the questions was, how many big league innings for Noah Schultz and Hagen Smith? We both shot very low, because I still feel that we might see one, we might see both, we might see neither. Connor, how would you answer that question?
I think you see more than 10 from at least one of them. But I think I probably would bet, like at this point, if you could give me the parlay, right, of does Grant Taylor, Noah Schultz, and Hagen Smith all pitch in the big leagues this year, I would probably put that parlay together at this point. I like the return on it. I like the odds. I like the way things are trending at Double-A for all 3 of them. Obviously, you want guys to stay healthy. That goes without saying. We're talking about pitchers. They exist permanently unhealthy, and that's my anxiety. But I think things are trending in the right way for all three of those guys to probably follow some sort of, I keep calling it the Jairo Iriarte plan. Obviously, guys have been used like that for years and years and years, but that's what it was last year.
Yeah. So you think there's a possibility they get some innings at the big league level, and it could be bullpen innings.
Yeah. I think that's how you'd probably break them in, just to make sure you manage innings, right? Yeah. You need to. You've got to make sure you manage things, and you can't have stuff spiral on you late.
That's what BA loves to hear. Managed innings.
Well, I just mean like,
dude, they should. I mean, Hagen Smith prior to Double A,
for sure.
He was pitching on a 7-day schedule.
Yeah, all these big leaguers, man. I'd be like, every single one of you are on notice. Like, everyone's tradable. Kenny Williams would have walked in this locker room this year and been like, "Listen, you guys suck. Everyone's on notice. Andrew Vaughn, like, you're on notice. Luis Robert, you don't ever run out of ball like that. Like, I'll trade you to Pittsburgh." That's what he always say.
Puffy chested Kenny ain't walking through that door anymore, though.
That's your boy, Guff.
I loved it. I love that Pittsburgh was his destination.
John Garland, like, Kenny's fine. John Garland would be like laughing sometimes. Like, Kenny told me for the third time this year that blah, 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 are going to trade me to Pittsburgh. He's like, fucking go for it then.
That's actually, that is funny. That Pittsburgh was like purgatory.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I had my first chance to actually meet and talk with John Garland at the White Sox Charities event, the Beyond the Diamond event a couple weeks ago. And he showed up for his appearance wearing an Ed Farmer jersey.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. I didn't know that the two of them, that Farmio and Garland, were that close. I looked at John because, I spent 2 years working with Ed as the pre and post game host before he passed. And I looked him dead in the eye and said, "John, we haven't met. I'm Connor. I worked with Farmio for 2 years. I can't tell you how bleeping cool it is that you wore a Farmer jersey to the ballpark." And he looks at me, Garland does, and he says, "You don't even know, man. Great to meet you. That guy helped me more than I'll ever be able to say." And that was just, since you brought up Garland, I wanted to bring that up because that was one of the coolest things I've seen all year.
You look back at all the things you regret as a player, and when you're getting called up and you win a World Series right away, you have these mini Minosos and Moose Scourings all around you all the time, but your head's so far up your own ass, you don't sit there to go like, wow. And my biggest regret with Farmio was he'd always be like, "BA, when are we going to a Notre Dame football game?" And I'm like, "That'd be great." And I go, "What? Like, how are we getting down there?" He's like, "Dude, we're getting in my Porsche. We'll be there in 45 minutes. And I'm like, "This fucking guy, man." Like, and I sit back and I go, "Man, that would have been cool." I mean, and I saw Farmio, towards the, not the tail end, but before, he was probably in his best throwing that hammer curveball in the big leagues and stuff. So that's one of those guys where I just cherish those moments.
Yeah. Farmio he was the best. He once made a flight at Phoenix Sky Harbor from Glendale. He left the ballpark 27 minutes before the flight was supposed to leave. He made it.
Come on.
Not an issue.
He drives 1,000.
Well, and he knows everyone. Like, that's
everybody.
So he probably knew the pilot.
Everybody.
I mean, I'm not kidding about that. Like, he probably was like, "Oh, it's Captain Bailey." And hang on for a second. "Hey, I'm in a real bad spot here. Make up do false report or something and delay."
Wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
No, Farmio, dude, I'm telling you, I thought Farmio for years was like getting a Kevin Spacey ass from Usual Suspects. And like, how he's like going through all that crap. And I'm going, watch, Farmio is going to like come out in a year and be like, "I'm just fucking with you guys." Like you just start being like, "All right, let's go. Let's play catch." And I'm like, dude, this guy's great, man.
You're right. I mean, that's a really good point you bring up is we kind of wrap things up here, is like, there's been so many legends that the three of us, like, that's the fun spot, like, stuff for Connor and I, who've been like covering this organization for so long, that you get to know these dudes too. You're either working with them or we never have worked against each other. That's what I love about the media. Everyone's like, "Oh, there's no rivalries, man. Like, give me your microphone." Like, we're all trying to fight for this, like, get the same thing. Some of us are trying to do a little bit more. Like, I'm a big, like, if everyone zigs, I'm zagging. But like, and that became known. But I like the Bill Meltons, and you mentioned Farmio and Minnie Minoso and
Moose
and Moose. I mean, they even, like, in some ways, like, guys who kind of Kittle and like Harold Baines. I mean, Bainesy's one of the nicest human beings I've ever met in my life.
Well, and that's, the other thing too, and BA, this, like, coaching nuggets, little things that help guys, active players get through the whatever or pick this thing up. Sometimes that happens when you run into Jim Tomei on the backfield and he's like, hey, do this instead. And it didn't happen in your formal coaching session and your batting cage. That's why these guys are around, because those nuggets stick and you hear it from somebody else. There's a story I was reading the other day, and it was the Julio Rodriguez, right, the center fielder for the Mariners. And he had altered something about his, I forget what it was, doesn't matter, but he would alter something about his swing late in the season last year, finally started hitting, got his head out of his ass, as you've been saying, BA. And it was because Edgar Martinez just walked by and offered this thing. And when you hear it from Edgar Martinez, it hits different. There's no other way around it, period, end of story.
That's our new, hey, Guff, that's our next White Sox recap podcast, is we're going to go stories from legends. You heard it here.
I like it.
Bainsey, Tim Raines, Moose Gowron, Farmio, Bill Melton, a.k.a. Eye Candy. We got to do it. I think we got to do it.
Melton, I have plenty of stories of Melton.
Man, let me know when that podcast comes around. I had a Melton story for you.
Yeah. Hey, before we let you go, Connor, just what you're doing with CHSN, I thought it was an absolutely brilliant move by them bringing you on board. It's unfortunate right now, and it's out of everyone's control at CHSN and the White Sox. Like, people don't understand it. I will happily speak this into existence because I know the RSN world. It's wrapped around my brain, as you know. This is a tug of war with a massive cable giant. It will eventually, I think, happen. I'm going to pause all of that because the broadcast is awesome. Chris Withers as the producer, and what you guys have added to that broadcast with yourself included and Brooke Fletcher. And then you obviously have the Chuck and Ozzy show. I mean, we know that Chuck and Ozzy were such a big part of us at NBC Sports Chicago forever. But I think the way that you guys have complemented each other has the amount of information you can get in a 2.5 hour game that's not necessarily happening on the field, I think is a credit to all of you guys, yourself, Brooke, Chris, is a way to kind of mix and match. And I think it's just been outstanding. And it's a compliment more than a question, but I don't know if you even knew the type of role when you took it, how it was going to kind of develop on the fly. But the maturation process in a short couple of months has been very impressive, and that's a credit to you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I will take the compliment and sit uneasy with it. 12 years of Catholic school, you don't really take compliments all that well. You know how it goes. But I thanks. And I don't know, the reason I felt so confident doing this and moving from radio to TV, I'd had a little bit of experience on TV, but not a whole lot. Was mostly because Chris Withers is there, in the chair. And it's mostly because I was moving to a place, I've covered this team for 15 years in one way or another, covered teams on both sides of town, the whole thing. But I know everybody that I'm working with. I'm changing jobs, but the people I'm talking with, the people I'm reporting to, like Brooks Boyer and Chris Quintana, and those guys all say the same. And we've got great relationships, and I trust them, with my career, essentially. And knowing that I get to go, back to work to a place where, I know the ins and outs. I know where the broom closet is. I know Mike at the security guard is going to let me through this little spot here so I can go do my job just a little bit faster. And those are all things that matter a whole lot. If you don't believe me, try go to work in Sacramento. It's a very difficult ballpark to get around, right? Like, that's all meaningful stuff. And when it comes to delivering on the broadcast, we want to, do the White Sox fan as much service as we can. I know what's on the field right now. We've been talking about it for a half an hour. We want to do as much as we can with everything else, with all the processes that are going to get the White Sox to where White Sox fans want them to be sooner rather than later. And that journey has always been huge for me, whether it's been on pre and post or doing shows or hit and run back in the day, like all that stuff matters. And I think, what makes a baseball broadcast fun is being able to sit with the broadcast in whatever gear you want to, right? I think, you want to sit back and take a nap from inning 6 to 7. God bless you. Some of the best naps I've ever had are during a baseball game, right? But if you want to get into 6th and you want to get some advanced metrics and you want to get strategy, you got Steve Stone, you got John breaking it down, you got all the advanced metrics and stuff. Brooke Fletcher I can't explain to you how great she is at her job. how hard she works to get everything from everybody in that clubhouse, and how much everybody in that club. Brooke's been on the job 6 damn weeks. Everybody in that clubhouse trusts her. Like, that's just,
she's there, man.
Great. It's huge.
She's been a huge addition. I think, the whole broadcast, I hope more people can see it. And because regardless of record, it's a really good product every single night. And I just feel like it needs to be seen. All right. 2 questions for you. They're both quick. It's kind of bam, bam. I know you just brought it up. You love advanced stats and advanced metrics. What's your favorite one?
Oh God. Probably, it varies from, I'm really messing around right now with, defensive metrics, because I feel like there's like a lot there that we don't quite understand yet. And it takes so much time to normalize and stuff. I'm actually just kind of sitting with defensive runs saved right now on Sports Info Solutions. Cause I don't know if you guys have seen, but like Sean Burke, despite the innings he's pitched, not that many, is baseball's leader from the pitcher's position in defensive runs saved. All right, so how do we score that? How do we put that together? All that kind of stuff. I asked him about it the other day, and he was like, "No way, really? Am I going to win a Gold Glove?" I was like, "Sean, it's been 4 weeks." And he looks down the locker. He looks down, and he's, like, he's joking, obviously, but he looks down the road. He looks at Shane Smith dead in the eye and goes like, "Shane, Gold Glove." And it's really great. But I think stuff like that, like, I love when metrics mean something to players, when we can, make that translation and get it to players. And right now, defensive run saved is kind of one that I'm all about, I guess. That wasn't a quick answer, but I had to tell a story.
Where's that metric when I was playing? If I can get paid.
Oh, dude, you would have had like a million. You would have had like a million defensive runs saved.
You suck. I just made 2 diving catches. You still suck. No.
All right, these are quick, and they're for both of you. All right, way too early to name it, but right now, if you had to name, who's the all-star on this team? Don't overthink it. Just
Luis Robert Jr.
What?
Yeah.
You shitting me with that?
I'm pumping hope, man. I don't know what to tell you. Like, wouldn't it be great though? He's your all-star representative from the White Sox in June. I think it'll end up being Shane Smith. Only
because Connor said that. I'm calling Andrew Vaughn then.
Great.
Something else, dude.
Hey, well, here's my thing. What if he gets hot? What if he gets hot and the rest of May hits 10 homers and he'll be hitting 220 with 13 homers? Like, that's better than Luis Robert right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Robert certainly feels he might not end up representing the White Sox by then. Who knows? But Shane Smith, I love this story. I'm a bit, how I love the storytell. If Shane Smith were to be an all-star as a Rule 5 dude, that's fantastic. All right. Right now, as we tape this, the White Sox are on pace for 44 wins. Over or under?
Over.
Yeah, I mean, it heats up in June. Everyone's stats, you get hot June, July. Everyone plays better. They'll play better against the Cubs and whatnot. So they'll have 45 wins.
Well, just for the record, you said 63 to start. I was 50. I also think over. I mean, right now they've played over the 10 that they currently have as we tape this. So I do think there's more good to come. You look at some of the batting averages and OPSs of these guys every day, and history tells you it's impossible for them to be at that number.
I think the other thing to consider too is, unlike last year, when the White Sox start making trades and also start promoting from within, you may be improving this roster. You know what I'm saying? Like, the guys coming up are guys that you want to see playing a lot of Major League Baseball. And I think that's, listen, if you want Tim Elco up, then you've also got to thought Tim Elco's going to help you when he gets here. I can't control when he gets here, but I can tell you things might be a little bit better once he does.
No doubt about it. The Illinois Tollway is dedicated to providing a safe and efficient system of 294 miles of roadways while ensuring the highest possible level of service to customers. And we are proud that they are part of the White Sox Recap Podcast. Connor McKnight of CHSN, dude. Hey, let's check in a couple times throughout the year if you're cool with that.
Absolutely. Would love to. I'll tease something for you guys. If you're a White Sox fan listening and you're into minor league prospects, you're into the system, you're into building and whatnot, we're going to have something for you pretty soon here in a couple of weeks. It's a project I'm really, really excited about. It will hit the ground in just a little, and you can hear more about it as we go. But there's a little nugget for you. It's coming. You're gonna hear about it, and it's gonna be big.
Only Guff does secret documentary projects. Like, how dare you?
I hope it involves you doing the things I did in 17, which is like deep dive and hanging out in the minor leagues and eating at crappy little hotel diners with players and stuff, because that's what it's really. I don't want to rip the cover off the tees. I'm just saying I hope it's something that involves you.
I'm not saying that I'm going to eat at a lot of Waffle Houses in June, but I'm probably getting it at the Waffle House a lot in June, is all I'm saying.
All right. I like that. Connor, appreciate you, brother. Really happy to have you on the show, and you're killing it, man. Just keep doing it.
Thank you, boys. Thanks for hanging.
The White Sox Recap Podcast comes to a close. Appreciate you guys watching on YouTube, and for those of you who do audio only and get your podcast wherever you get your podcasts, we appreciate you as well. It's been the White Sox Recap Podcast. Connor McKnight, Brian Anderson. We'll see you guys next time. Appreciate you watching. Appreciate you listening.